before I get started, just keep in mind that I may not be doing tonight's episode of For Kenneth's Sake. Remember, I've been talking about in the stream how the guests, we ended up pushing it back. The guest for this week, pushing it back, us pushing it to next week. So we'll be having that episode next Thursday with that particular guest. But I didn't get a guest in between time to kind of fill in, so we may just scrap it all together. I'll let you guys know what's up on that as sort of the day comes to a close, because that's not until 7 p.m. we were scheduled. But has nothing to do with the video today. Here we go. 22 million record. 22 million people have been put out of work in America due to the lockdown. Okay, 22 million people. It's a lot of people. And you're starting to see people get antsy. You're starting to see people get kind of pissed off. We're seeing protests that are starting to happen. I've been talking about this for over a month, really, if you want to get technical. But I've been speaking about how this is silly, this indiscriminate lockdown. All we've learned over the over the month, as new data is available, is just confirming what we already knew about some of the other countries that were getting hit earlier. In America, when it comes to the demographic of people that are more likely to use your hospital resources, the demographic of people that are more likely dying, this idea that there's people that are asymptomatic and people that, you know, may never know if they ever had it, may never have any symptoms at all, that'll show ever, you know, over the course of them, you know, getting antibodies, built up and so forth. So look, this was never economically sustainable. But just how so easy, I think that's the most frustrating part for a person like me that's been calling this stuff out. It never was economically sustainable, but how easily so many people advocated for this and are still going down with the ship as numbers continue to be revised down when you consider some of the models, such as matter of fact, I want to make sure I get the acronym correct. The IMHE model was continuously revised down, and it has nothing to do with the extreme forms of social distancing. They always accounted for this. They just got new data, considering when this is peaked and so forth, that basically states that the original numbers that they had in terms of projected deaths were exaggerated, even according to them and their model. I'm sorry, I have this. This is the live. My bad. Overlay. But yeah, it's a joke, but it does show you have economically illiterate people that are running the country. You have just because this person is a medical doctor or some sort does not mean that they have any sort of economic literacy, if you will. But that's just how so easily people that either were working quote unquote essential jobs, members of the government, members of the healthcare systems, their jobs are guaranteed essentially through all of this. And this whole point of the idea that we're doing this is specifically for them, more so on the medical side, because Lord knows we don't want to overwhelm the medical system. That's the whole point of the quote unquote flatten the curve idea. Did we have to do an indiscriminate shutdown just for the sake of saving that industry from stress? We know that it's not impacting everybody the same way, not just from a geographical standpoint, but also from an age and health status standpoint. We know this. Was an indiscriminate lockdown that put 22-something million people out of work, was that the correct way to do it? And I'm going to continue to show this graph. I don't care how many, some of y'all get pissed off at me doing this. Look, there's a big block of working people that are not really using your hospital resources. Does it make sense to lump them in with the same kind of lockdown as them? I don't think that makes any sense. If you just had, you guys were living in this sort of do something world where everybody feels as if, oh, well, they have definitely the state, definitely the government. They have to do something. They can't not do anything. So they have to do something, even if it's not conducive to solving anything. So here we are. We know that the vast majority, the whole point of the damn flatten the curve idea is to keep the rate of people that are using your hospital resources under the amount of hospital resources that are available. And yet you have these people, most of which don't work because of their age, that are the ones that are actually using your hospital resources. So did it make sense to forcefully quarantine these guys, stay in, shelter in place these guys alongside with these guys, even though we know that these people aren't the ones that are generally using your hospital resources, which is the whole point of flatten the curve. That's what you guys said. It's frustrating, man. It's so frustrating. These people don't even damn work for the most. Not saying all of them don't, but we know the average age of we talk about hospital rates more so with definitely when the death rates, which it just goes even lower. Remember, this is between age 0 and 44. These are the New York City numbers for those that don't know. Per 100,000 population, there's only like 5,000 people. 5% of people. Per 100,000 are between the age of 0 and 44. That's a big block of people, guys, that are just forced in sort of the shelter in place. This is an indiscriminate lockdown for something that is very discriminate when it comes to who it impacts the most in the event that they catch this virus. And we're starting to see some of these antibody tests get rolled out. I think, this is getting more frustrating, man, because it's showing that a lot of people already have it, didn't know they ever had it, which means that the infection fatality rate is going to be incredibly low. And was it worth shutting down the country for a month, putting 22 million people out of work? I know there's economic illiteracy who thinks that, oh, well, once we get things back going, all those jobs are coming back to the same capacity as they once were. That it's not how it works. It's not how it was. I'm pretty sure some of you guys even know in the real world, definitely smaller businesses that aren't coming back. They should just shutting down for good. 22-some million people have been put out of work in a month for something that it's looking like may end up being a sham. And the sham isn't the fact that I'm not saying that the virus doesn't exist. I'm not saying that people aren't getting sick. I'm not saying that people aren't dying because it is. Absolutely, this is something that is happening. What I'm saying is the sham is the overreaction. Your models have been revised down. So they are admitting the numbers were exaggerated. You're starting to see a more clear picture in terms of who this is impacting. And we shut the entire country down. And it was more of a bandwagon effect. It wasn't necessarily a national shutdown, but it was effectively one because the states were all working together in the sense of one led to another, and then pretty much everyone's in the shelter in place for something that is very, very discriminate virus in terms of who is going to hospitalize, in terms of who it's going to impact to the point to where it's, you're getting severe reactions, possibly death. Average age, I believe, in Italy was 81 years of age. Here it's like a little over, it's like 70 or 75 or something like that. But everybody's Italy, everybody's New York City. I talked about this, and I don't know how many videos talking about how, look, man, every city is. New York City is a very unique place. 8 million people living in one spot. It's a very unique place. They had been shutting down hospitals. So if you're gonna try to base America off of what New York City is, or even some of the other even countries that have been impacted, it's very dishonest to do that when you consider the fact that it's not a proper representation of the rest of, let's say, the country in America, right? I talked about how the big percentage of deaths are coming out of New York, and a bigger percentage of that is coming out of one city in New York City. Putting it into perspective is what. Let's go look at it right now. Actually, hold on. Hold up. looking at the map and looking at the updates in terms of the United States, God damn it. When you look at it, just putting things into perspective, guys. Texas has only 318 deaths. New York has almost 11,000 deaths. Well, almost 12,000 deaths. It's 11,500 deaths. Texas is more populated, way more popular, almost 10 million more people populated in New York. Okay? It's almost like it's going to impact different regions different ways, considering their lifestyles and how they live and stuff like that. You guys all live probably in areas that hospital workers are being furloughed, laid off. They're not being overwhelmed by any means. It's just in preparation. They're not doing like these sort of elective procedures and stuff like that, so they have no reason for them to be there. And because their area isn't impacted like New York City, as an example, they're having to furlough and lay off workers. You know what I'm saying? So it's almost like it just doesn't impact every place the same way. But hey, 22 million people have been put out of work because some of you guys are scared. And I always got to end with this, even though I repeat myself, it's going to be that one crackhead that's in the comment section. Well, what's your solution? I don't hear any solutions. All I hear is you complaining. Say it in the same videos. I've said it in numerous videos. Never should have been an indiscriminate lockdown. It was stupid. Stupid when it happened. It's stupid now. I'm thinking that the economy is like some friggin' light switch. It's not the case. There's never a one size fits all when you consider demographics are an actual real thing. So if anything, if you were going to quarantine people, it would have made more sense, right? As the picture was as clear as day in terms of who is going to hospitalize, are going to use your hospital resources. The people that are going to be more likely to die would have made more sense for them to do whatever they, if they wanted to quarantine, have them sitting somewhere, but don't force everybody else. Definitely the people that are less likely to use your hospital resources, far less likely to die from it. Let them make the decisions that they want to make, take the risk and assume the risk that they want to assume. That was always the solution. That always made the most sense. But here we are, 22 million some people, and money is going to exhaust. People have been working for these certain jobs that have been furloughed for years upon years. People are realizing that the stimulus, if you will, the unemployment isn't enough. They're not getting as much as they anticipated. They're realizing how fast you can run through X amount of money. They're realizing that so many other people aren't going to get access to this because they made too much money, right? Or it's starting to get phased out. And to be fair, there's people that are coming to the other side and seeing this crap for what it was, even if they initially were so scared that they thought that the lockdown was a good idea. It was never a good idea. I don't know why anybody thought that just shutting down the economy for the most part was a great idea. It was never a good idea. $22 million people being put out of work, have been put out of work. 22 million people. It's a lot of people. A lot of people.